China exports technology to Russia in a ratio of 10 to 1 to the rest of the world. So, I mean, there's a huge amount of technology that goes into Russia from China. So there is a huge dependency there. But there's an equal dependency the other way. So a lot of this is about oil and gas pipelines and things like equivalents to SWIFT payment systems and so on. So there's an interdependency there. China's best strategy at the moment is actually to do nothing and play a long game, which is actually what it's doing, because it doesn't want to lose that relationship with Russia, but equally it's very integrated into the global financial system and the global economic system, so it can't afford to upset the West either.
Rebecca, always lovely to see you, and I always love hearing what you have to say. Naive and foolish, that is what many people are saying, that the European policy has been for so long, and actually needs to change aggressively. We can't rely on authoritarian regimes for our finished goods and indeed for our energy as well. How quickly can Europe change?
So naive globalization is quite a sweet way of looking at all of this. I mean, there was a degree of trust that Europe had in the regimes in China and the regimes in Russia, and a desire actually to work multilaterally and work together in order to bring people into the fold, because the general argument is that if you can do economics well and everybody's happy, then you don't have conflicts, and that had sort of reigned supreme as an ideology, if you like, over the last 70 or so years. I think now there's been this new realism and this Ostpolitik that's coming in Germany that said, well, we can't afford not to be able to work by ourselves. We can't afford not to have our own strategic autonomy in terms of defence and security and energy as well as economics. So I actually think there's been a seismic shift in Europe in the last 4 weeks. I think in terms of the mentality of Europe and what needs to be done, and a sudden awareness from Ursula von der Leyen and also from Scholz as well. The strategy has been, we are going to do something. We are going to increase our expenditure on military. We've not engaged with it. We've shut down Nord Stream 2. It's a massive shift in policy, and I think the process can be quite rapid.
I admire your faith in our policymakers and our leaders and betters, Rebecca, but I've seen it too many times where things just go back to near normal after the crisis event has passed as well. Why do you think that European businessmen and women aren't just going to go flocking back to Russia because of the opportunities there after this crisis?
I actually think this crisis represents a seismic shift in the way in which the world is operating. So whether you call it the end of globalization or whether you call it a recalibration back to East and West, I don't think going back to normal is an option right now. I don't think there's a normal to return to, because I think it's going to take a very long time for Russia to come back into the fold economically. I think there are all sorts of underlying things, like, for example, the Chinese-Russia alternative to SWIFT, and those types of relationships, which, and we've seen this week, we've seen ruble rupee pricing, there's ruble renminbi pricing. The danger is that we separate out into, if you like, a great Chinese firewall down the middle of the Atlantic, and that actually we have an East and a West in terms of payment systems and finances and everything. And I think there isn't a normal to return to. And I think that's why I don't think it's faith in our leaders. I think it's actual just pragmatism. I think they have no alternative.